All right, so I'm just going to jump right into it here. Just want to welcome everyone to the latest installment of our video series from Ontario Harvestore. And today we're going to be talking about the Keenan mixer, the TMR mixer, diet feeder, some of the benefits of it, and some real world experience that our customers actually have with it. But before we get started, I want to do just a quick introduction of everybody that you're going to see today on the screen. So I'm going to start with Braden Van Driesten. He actually works for Keenan. He's a counterpart of mine out in the prairies, doing a great job out there for us. Then we've got Eldon Petherick. He's a pretty common to see him on our videos right now. He's nutritionalist for dairy nutritionalist for Alltech Canada, and his region is Ontario. And then I've got Harry Knassen. He is actually an owner and has been running a Keenan for several years now. And Harry milks out by Aurora. And actually, Harry, I just want to just a quick intro. Can you give me a little bit of background on how many cows you're milking and how long you've actually been using the Keenan mixer?
So yeah, currently we're milking in 135 cows. First Keenan was being used. That was actually in 360 Mac fiber, and we got that one in 2011. So there's where it actually started with, having actually a mixer who's getting old and smaller, and you need to do an upgrade, and you need to use dollar cents those days to make the right decision. I mean, you can only spend it once, and then you're actually hoping to do the right decision. So yeah, but with getting enough information from it, also of course from the sales guy, and believe me, any sales guy is right, because otherwise they won't sell.
Yep.
That is, but I mean for us, I mean you need to do the math. You need to talk to people. You need to do the math, and that made it basically also made for us the decision to do it, and also. That is basically the only mixer who did such a tremendous job of chopping up bales, whether it was just a couple of flakes or a bale. It would got everything just nicely up and nicely gentle tumble, and you basically kept your product uniform, instead of that you had basically spin it, that everything was caught up and destroyed. You had an actual product just with actually the right length and perfectly mixed.
Perfect. And actually, I'm actually going to shift over to Braden. I know the answer. I think everybody on here knows what the answers are, but I always like how Braden describes this. Braden, can you give me a quick breakdown on how the mixer actually works and why it works the way that it does?
So on the Keenan mixer is that when we start talking about efficiency, we start talking about chop length, exactly what Harry was explaining, is that we're getting that mech fiber concept. And when we talk about mech fiber concept, we're chopping it to the exact or same lengths in our product, and we're not left with a bunch of mush. The way that we explain things is that a Keenan mixer doesn't have dead spots. There's no place where the actual feed to sit. So everything is actually getting mixed in that chamber. Most mixers that are out on the marketplace right now are predominantly vertical mixers, which are giant, which are basically a screw type mixer, which if you look at it, they are actually more or less work like a blender. The longer you leave it, the more chopped you get and the more fine that the product gets. With a Keenan mixer, we are fluffing that product up. We are keeping the chop length consistent, and we're maximizing efficiency and dry matter intake inside the animals.
Okay. And then Eldon, I'm going to toss it to you. After hearing what Braden's just said, how important is that when you're looking at a nutrition from a nutrition level on a herd that you're looking at right now, and what are the effects that you get to see?
Yeah, I mean, the mech fiber concept is incredibly important. As Braden said, not only in the length of cut, but also on the sharpness of cut on your longer forage pieces. And, the proper length and sharpness is going to help just stimulate better rumen contraction and allow that more physically effective fiber will create more cud chewing in the cow. And ultimately it's going to lead to an improvement in rumen health, which is what every nutritionist is after. How do we make that rumen as efficient and as healthy as possible?
Okay. And the term mech fiber, actually, it's a patented term that comes with the Keenan mixers. Keenan itself is actually, they put a lot of time and a lot of research into making sure that we're providing the best feed possible for the cows. And by doing that, we see some great increases when we're out on farms and guys are using these things properly. Then actually you've got a big heavy mixer there, the 380.
Yep.
How much horsepower are you putting on that thing?
So currently we have actually 125 horsepower in front of it. Probably 110 can also do it. But I mean, you can also push yourself. No, that's a tractor we have. And it just hums smoothly with an 1400 or RPMs during filling, and also the discharging as well. So you can, if you put a math to it, how much fuel you save, I think it is phenomenal.
Yeah. And then actually, I'll go back to Braden here. So how is it that the Keenan is able to go at such low power, such low idle with its mixing? When we're looking at a vertical mixer, normally the only way they can go a little bit lower power, lower RPM, is typically a vertical mixer or another kind of mixer will end up being, you've got to crank it out to around the 2000 RPM mark, and they'll have a gearbox, high-low gearbox on them. Braden, for you, can you just give everybody a quick rundown on why we can actually mix at such a low RPM and low power?
So yeah, thanks Curtis. So on that side of the coin is with Keenan is that the machine is actually geared lower. And when I say it's geared lower, it's the machine, it's quite a simple machine when you actually break it down. It's geared lower. It's chains, drives, and sprockets that are actually driving the machine. So 6 bearings and a spline shaft. There's no gearbox on that machine. When we're talking about that, is that once we need initial torque to start the mixer mixing, the best way to explain it is you need initial torque to get the mixer moving. Once you get the mixer moving, there is a part of that mixer that is creating somewhat of a momentum shift as it's flopping the feed up and bringing the feed back down to the belly of the mixer. As it's flipping the feed, it's flipping it with the angle paddle side to side. But when it's geared lower, is that you need that initial torque to get it going. But once you get the mixer going, it's an easy mixing concept, and obviously an easy on the torque and power side once you get the mixer rolling. So, and when we see that the low RPM, if we get the tumble mixer just moving so much, when we get it moving too much, is that then we create almost like a turbulence. So when the mixer is running, the slower that it mixes, we have that perfect little speed there in between, depending on your tractor, 400 to 450 PTO RPM, and that is the perfect mix. That's usually the perfect mixing size on 540 PTO, not to mention, but that's kind of the perfect mixing speed that we have for the chamber, as we don't want it running crazy fast, but we're allowing that flipping motion where the feed gets to flop to the bottom, and then the next paddle lifts that feed up to carry it up to create more of a consistent mix.
Okay. And then I want to go back to basically, so we've got a pretty efficient machine. One of the things that we haven't mentioned yet is actually the Keenan mixer has been awarded environmentally. It's the only one that's actually been awarded an environmental award for actually not just its efficiency, but actually helping the animals it's feeding become more efficient by improving the rumination in the cow, lowering the feed actually needed for a cow. So, and a lot of that comes from this consistency that we've developed with this machine, or Keenan's developed with it. So, and actually, I'm going to put Eldon on the spot here right now, because I know what some of the answers are. Eldon and I were actually out at a farm a few weeks ago and doing a shaker box test, just to make sure everything was mixing the way it should be. It was a 365 mech fiber, one of the more popular ones that is out in the market right now. Eldon, can you kind of go over what we did and the results from that, and the recommendations that were actually made?
Yeah, so I guess simply what we did was we used the Penn State shaker box, the 4-screen shaker box, and we took samples at 5 different points within the feed bunk from start to finish, and shook them out and measured the results just to look for really, obviously, the levels on each screen, but the consistency across the entire mix. And so, all the samples were really consistent. We did see a little bit more longer particles towards the last of the mix on samples 4 and 5. And so we made some recommendations just to a little longer mixing time, and we added a few knives, I believe, right, Curtis, to the mixer. And we're able just to get those longer particle pieces more similar to the start. So it's not a full-fledged mixer efficiency, but in terms of the length of chop and the particle length across the mix, it's a great way to ensure that the mix is consistent from start to finish.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what we're after, nutrition standpoint. We want that cow to get every cow to get the ration that they're intended to eat, right? We always talk about the paper ration, the ration that gets mixed, and the ration the cows eat. And when we can keep a consistent ration and actually get the cows to eat the ration they were meant to eat, we're going to optimize performance. And kind of the one thing I always say to people is cows crave consistency. They want that consistency every day, and that's what we're after.
Yep. And actually, jump in now and go back to Harry here. When you're feeding with the Keenan, now you've got a big one there. How many different batches are you doing a day? So I know most people will concentrate on the milking cow mix, but the dry cow and the heifer mixes are just as important, if not more important, because you've got to make sure you're raising good animals that are coming up into the system, because they're the ones that are going to be making you the money. Harry, how many mixes are you doing? How many rations? And how does the machine actually handle doing the smaller rations for you?
Well, currently doing only two mixes a day, so that's for the milking cows and for the dry cows. Can you hold on for a minute?
Okay. So.
Just hold on.
No problem. We can continue on here for.
This is farming. This is farming.
Exactly. Yeah, Harry's actually talking to us from his barn right now, and so he's got to give a little bit of direction to him, assuming that's his dad.
We're currently making two mixes a day. Keep it simple. For the heifers, if they have clean products, I'm also just as easy to put a product right in front of their nose, and they can nibble away. For the cows, it is more precise. You want to have consistency with the cows. Always every day feeding the exact same time, because those cows need consistency. So time of delivery and consistency of the feed, that basically keeping those bucks going non-stop. For the dry cows now in the wintertime, we're actually doing every other day. Since it is cold, just to simplify work, and then once the temperature is coming above the 15 or 18 degrees Celsius, then we go for a daily mix. But that was for us also a big thing, because it is really easy to get, and majority of the mixes, as long as the mixer is 3/4 volt, you still get an okay mix. And now all of a sudden you have actually basically momentum that you're only feeding 10 dry cows just because there are not more in there. You basically can make a mix. You can make a consistent mix, and that is now the beauty of it. Whether you have now 10 cows or 100, because it simply tumbles. It's the same.
Yep.
So
And you're not dealing with pressure on this. You're just dealing with gravity. Is really so.
Correct.
That's how it's doing its mixing.
correct.
Which is why we can go from, on a mixer your size, which is meant to feed up to 200 cows at a time, we're actually able to feed 5 to 10 cows in it and get the same consistency.
Correct.
So actually, the one thing I guess we hadn't mentioned in here, is everybody's always looking for milk production and butterfat production, things like that. Harry's herd's actually a very high producing herd here. He's made some changes recently. And how old's your barn now?
Barn is now 2 years old. So back in 2019, we made the change to go to Lely robotic milkers and also to sand bedding. So a lot of those items just helps climbing up in milk production, and of course you're still dealing with a quota system. So once you have too much milk, you have to get rid of the lowest yielding. So that also helps getting your average production up. So currently we're sitting at 43 liters, sitting actually around the 4% fat and 315 through protein. Cows are rocking, and the only problem I have is animals are now at the moment not worth a lot, so I'm keeping too many first calvers, so I have actually very young herd, so that's why you have still room for the future, right? So
Yep. Oh, exactly. So, and those are pretty impressive numbers that you're putting up right now for your milk production and your butterfat and everything, which is what we want to see. And that the typical profile of somebody who is running a Keenan, a little bit higher production herd, and or somebody who's looking to become a higher production herd as well, which I think most guys are. So with it, the one thing we actually haven't really talked about here is talking quite a bit about the consistency of the feed, how it's mixing, so on and so forth. One of the nice parts is Keenan as a company is always trying to achieve more efficiency, so on and so forth. So I'm going to touch on this. It's actually going to be another whole video that we're going to be talking about. But Braden, can you, between you and Eldon actually, can you talk a little bit about the InTouch feed management system for herds?
So the InTouch feed management system is a feed management system that is actually correlated. It was directly introduced as back in 2008, 2009 as actually the PACE system back then, before Alltech acquired Keenan. The PACE box was pretty simple. Obviously, it was just like a memory card, and you were feeding off the rations on the scale head. But now we jump into 2021, and we are into we have cellular data, Wi-Fi connections, as well as a milk portal to figure out our income over feed cost, as well as our margin per cow per day. It's jumped vastly in the last 9 to 10 years to where we are right now, and it's constantly making more and more efficiencies to grow forward. Right now, for example, so basically it's eliminating the feed sheet. It's taking the feed sheet out of the equation. You're actually counting down each ingredient, and it's allowing our farmers in this day and age to become more consistent and more consistency through their animals. Like what we talked about, like what Eldon jumped on with the cows crave consistency. That's where InTouch comes into play. The mixability in the Keenan mixer, plus the in-touch consistency goes together. So then you're actually making that perfect ration, and it's the right length, it's the right chop, it's the right rotations that the mixer needs to make that perfect mix for the cows.
And Eldon, from a nutrition standpoint, what have you seen from guys who are using the in-touch system?
Yeah, it's a great tool from a nutritionist standpoint in that it certainly allows you to have more information. So whether you're tracking dry matter intakes on each group of cows on the farm, understanding the key performance metrics, obviously kilograms of milk per cow, milk fat and protein. But certainly even looking at the economics, the milk revenue per cow, income after feed cost, feed conversion, putting cost to all inventory on farm, you can really do everything as much as you want. And, the more of that information that you have allows you to certainly make better decisions in terms of ration formulation and better management decisions. So fantastic tool.
And actually, I'll give a real world example. At a farm not too long ago, start one up. And one of the things that tracks actually is it actually tracks not just if you're putting in the correct ration, what it's costing you if you don't put in that correct ration. From the first week of using it, and you get weekly reports and so on and so forth from it, just emailed to you. From the first week of using it, the person on the farm that was feeding was 10% over, which worked out to a couple $1,000 actually in extra feed that went into the cows. The next week, just because they learned the system, they were paying attention, they went down to 6% overage. So quite a big savings there. By week 4, they were down to 1%, within a 1% tolerance of what was actually supposed to be going. So we're saving thousands of dollars a year just to begin with by using that system. And it was the same person using it every time. And so one of the key benefits that I can see with it is when we have got multiple people using it, feeding as well, it evens that out for you because everybody's getting the same instruction rather than everybody feeding their own way, because everyone feeds their own way. I know, Harry, you're the one who does all the feeding on your farm, and you do a very good job of it. So the results are, as we say, the results are in the mix, and the results are coming out of the cows right now. So, but with it, it's a very good tool. And one of the nice parts is, if you can run a smartphone, which I think most of us can these days, you can run this system. So, but we'll get more into that on another video here. And then Braden, so mainly guys, there's a few different ways that these systems can be set up, and you're kind of out in the prairies, you're doing a little bit differently. There's the pull type mixers, which is the most popular. We also can set them up as stationary mixers for some smaller herds. There is also a self-propelled mixer that we have in the market. And the latest one that you're doing right now for some larger herds is, which one's that?
So we actually just developed, and now we're on our 4th one that we've done, but Keenan truck mount mixers. So our first one that we did was 2.5 years ago, and when I explained it, we put an MF380 on a truck. Right away, we learned a little bit about the North American style of feeding, exactly where it needed to be, the height it needed to be, and the amount of area that it needed to cover. That mixer today on farm is mixing at a Hutterite colony just actually southwest of Fort Macleod, Alberta, and they're mixing for their sheep, they're mixing for their dairy, as well as their dry cows, their close-ups, their beef cow herd, which is 850 cows, and then also a 6,000 head feedlot. So this truck is moving all day long.
Wow.
It's doing 19 to 20 loads a day. And, you know, if you think that we talk about Keenan's and we talk about the way that these machines last and kind of the maintenance and everything like that. These guys already have done pretty close. If you do the math on it, depending on the year and whatnot, but they're pushing, you know what, that in their 4th year, they're going to be pushing right around 20,000 loads that they've already done. Right. And that's a lot of loads when you think about how much you're mixing the grain, the abrasive products that they're mixing through this mixer. It's put to the test every day. Yes. Should they have an MF 400 because they have an MF 380? Probably. But at the same time, this mixer is traveling around. It's on a truck and it's doing really well.
And good thing. They all come with hardened steel liners, so that's a good thing for this situation.
Yeah.
So.
And they said their biggest savings that they see compared to other mixers is fuel, by far. Fuel.
Yeah.
And
normally, it's about 25%, Harry, is that about right? Fuel savings, if not a bit more?
Yeah, I think actually a bit more. I mean, depending on per tractor, of course, but it is a big number, and I think the more mixes you make, the bigger difference you will see in your yearly fuel consumption with mixing alone. So it is huge, especially in the world when fuel prices are going up. It's something that's coming back daily.
Yep. Perfect. All right. And then, you know what, guys, I'm going to kind of end it there for us. We're just about out of time anyways. So just to sum up, so if anybody wants any more information on the Keenan mixers, they can contact Ontario Harvestore, myself, or one of our other salespeople, or if you're out in the prairies, you can contact Braden directly as well. So we'll put everybody's contact information at the end here when in the editing portion of it. But listen, thank you very much, guys. I appreciate the help with this and the time, and look forward to talking to everybody again. Okay?
Sounds good, Curtis.
Right.
Thank
you, guys. Thank Ontario Harvestore. Thank you.
Bye.